Good morning. My name is David Swartley. I am the President and CEO of Moravian Manor Communities. Since the last time we spoke, we've had one employee test positive for COVID-19. Our employee is at home and feeling fine. Our country just passed another milestone with the Mother's Day holiday. I want to express my appreciation for the vast majority of you who complied with the governor's stay-at-home order. As the weather becomes warm and we grow more and more tired of similar routines from day to day, it is not easy to comply. Indeed, this event is a marathon, not a sprint. To our employees who are showing up every day, thank you. Many of our employees have children at home. Many of you have stress at home and work. On the screen, you will see a picture forwarded to me by a resident. It was published in the New Yorker magazine on April 13th of this year. Kind of sums it all up. To our residents in our care areas and their family members, I want to thank you for your endurance. As our team grapples with the next steps, I've seen our staff in tears as they sympathize with how incredibly difficult this separation must be. My oldest daughter called home on Mother's Day from Virginia. I could tell from her voice that she was discouraged. She wrapped up her conversation by saying, "I just want to see my family." Can it be that after 23 years, I'm actually missed? Perhaps. For those of you separated from your loved ones, thank you for your endurance. It has to be excruciating. It is a strange and confusing time. Over the weekend, I was speaking with an acquaintance and I casually asked, "How is your family?" Immediately, the individual teared up and explained how incredibly hard it is to balance work with an interrupted school year and children at home. There is nothing easy about this time at all. I also had a conversation with a friend who is an entrepreneur. His nightmare is a bit different, as he struggles daily with whether or not his business will survive. For him, one cannot overstate the economic impact of this prolonged shutdown. As these conversations suggest, the need for a balanced approach to this virus is proving difficult. This Friday, Lancaster County has announced that it will move against the governor's orders and move into the yellow phase of reopening. In conversations with business leaders and legal counsel, it is clear that this decision is fraught with potential legal issues. This change does not change any of our immediate plans. On Monday, I had the opportunity to be on a Zoom call with the Lancaster Chamber of Commerce, the CEOs of Lancaster County's Life Plan Communities, and the Lancaster County Public Health Emergency Advisor. We had the opportunity to explain in detail how difficult it is to acquire personal protective equipment, PPE, for our staff. Providing PPE to long-term care workers is part of the Lancaster County plan, and there is no evidence that we are ready to go with adequate PPE. I was pleased that Senator Martin made an impassioned plea for PPE and a Commonwealth testing late last week. I share these comments to hopefully shed a small light on the complexities of the virus, particularly those of us who work in long-term care. Daily, I pray for the wisdom of our federal, state, and local leaders. Their decisions are incredibly difficult. As most of you know, I love sports. Recently, I read a book entitled John Fetzer on a Handshake. Mr. Fetzer made much money early in his career in the radio business. He eventually purchased the Detroit Tigers and is widely credited with advancing Major League Baseball via television contracts. Most of his estate eventually went to forming the Fetzer Institute in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I found the following quotation from Jack Verdun on the Fetzer Institute website. I quote, "We don't control circumstance. That's one thing we're learning right now for sure. But we do get to take our stance in the midst of circumstance, in the midst of everything that begs us to be considered and reconsidered. In these rapidly changing times, may that be a calm, grounded, and loving stance, and may it help people find their stance, including those folks you have never even touched or met." End of quotation. I believe that the attitude of our stance matters. Some of our residents are fearful they will die from this disease. Others would feel quite the opposite. I hope within our differences we can find a stance that is calm, grounded, loving, and respectful. The reason for my fascination with John Fetzer is as follows. In the early 1970s, he drove unannounced into my in-laws' farm in Leola, Pennsylvania. He was completing some genealogy research and found out that the first folks who owned the farm were a Wanger family who was an early ancestor of John Fetzer. My in-laws said he was a perfect gentleman. After spending some time in the house and wandering around the farm grounds, taking pictures, he gave them a signed baseball of the entire team of the Detroit Tigers from their 1968 World Series championship. The ball went promptly into the toy chest with other toys. True story. Stay strong, be well, focus on your stance in the coming weeks and giving grace to those who have different perspectives. Thank you for your work in making Moravian Manor communities a great and a safe place to live.